Lame. Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Fort Worth. It is Friday, August 25th, and I'm glad you're here today. To start, I have some sad news. Long-term Rotarian Ted Mack passed. He joined the club in 1975, was a proud Rotarian for 48 years. Let's have a moment of silence in his memory. Thank you. First up, Rabbi Ralph Mecklenburger, Rabbi Emeritus at Temple Beth El Congregation with our invocation, followed immediately by Wesley Gentle with our national anthem. How are you, Rabbi?
Well, thanks. Awesome God of this amazing world in which we live, we offer thanks for the myriad daily opportunities you give us to place service above self. Divine source of knowledge and wisdom, cosmic educator, be with our school superintendent and all who labor to prepare our children to function in the modern world. May we, as parents, family, and friends, and they as educators, rise to the challenges of preparing tomorrow's knowledgeable and responsible citizens. For this meal, for this club, for your many blessings, we humbly thank and praise you. Amen. Amen. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, our Rabbi. All right. So a couple of weeks ago, I made a decision that I really want us to read out everybody's names on all our guests, not realizing that today we would have 45 guests. John Laudenschlager, please come up here for a guest introduction.
Latest update, we have over 50 guests here today, so we really don't have time to show you all the respect we'd love to by actually audibly reading your names, but welcome one and all. We're grateful you've joined with us today on this hot, hot summer day. We hope you come back and join us again. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Now to thank our sponsors. Today's sponsor is Bank of Texas. Bank of Texas is so much more than a bank. It's a financial services partner for consumers, businesses, and wealth clients alike. While its origins may have been modest, it has grown alongside its clients for more than a century. Its people have unwavering confidence in their ability to build strong relationships, provide diverse expertise and services, and invest in the communities they serve. Our co-sponsor today is Pastors for Texas Children. Pastors and faith leaders of all denominations are joining Pastors for Texas Children to support the quality education of all Texas children. PTC's purpose is to spark a strong grassroots movement committed to standing up for our children, families, and Texas communities. Next up, the four-way, yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sponsors. Next up is our four-way test. Since we have a lot of guests here today, let me explain, as I do each week. The four-way test is what guides each of us as Rotarians in all that we think, say, or do. If it doesn't pass the test, we don't think it, we don't say it, we don't do it, or at least that's what we strive for. So if you'll repeat after me or along with me, number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build goodwill and better friendship? And number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? Thank you. Now, throwing that out the window, I'd like to welcome past President J.R. Labby to the stage for the newscast.
Thank you. Thank you all so much. You make me feel as welcome as Yevgeny Prigozhin at a surprise party for Vladimir Putin. So, okay, that was my test to see how many of you in the room follow news not related to Donald Trump's mugshot. So I could really be in trouble today, but here we go. President Kirk, I want to commend you on the hard work you're doing to start and end meetings on time. Yay, yay. Now let's work on the wording for the speaker's parting gift. What exactly is in that blue bag if you are giving, and I quote from the August 4th meeting, a memento of polio? Is there a little iron lung in that bag? Very cool. So kids may be back in class, but their parents are still waiting for the legislature to do something about school funding. Our legislature likes to pass laws that challenge public schools, and the Texas Education Agency loves to write regulations based on those laws. Now we enter the world of education acronyms. Follows is what Dr. Ramsey and her ilk have to deal with every day. District curriculum has to comply with text because if it doesn't, students won't pass the STAR. Some students have special needs because they're ED, LD, OHI, ADD, ADHD, MR, or TBI. These students have an ARD where an IEP is prepared and they're placed in the LRE. If student discipline is an issue, violators of the SCOC will wind up in the DAEP. Faculty members are evaluated using the T-test. If they get too far out of line, they could wind up before the SBEC. Educators have to make sure students receive FAPE and that the district complies with IDEA, HIPAA, and FERPA. If they don't, they'll hear from the TEA and the OCR of the DOE, PDQ. And that is why Attorney Jim Whitten has a contract with the FWISD. Fort Worth Magazine came out with its best companies to work for list this week, and the Tarrant Appraisal District was among the mid-size winners. I know. The Star-Telegram named its biggest jerk to work with this week, and it's the Tarrant Appraisal District's Director of Information Systems, Cal Wood. Maybe more like Cal wouldn't. Mr. Wood was caught on tape telling coworkers he supported creating a, quote, false narrative that distances the truth from the media. The truthful narrative is TAD's tech issues hampered taxpayers' ability to protest their annual appraisals before the deadline. So apparently the best company to work for and the worst company to work with is the same company. During our August 11th meeting, Rotarian Randall Howard asked Speaker Mark Faber if Texas Motor Speedway's vast open infield and expansive seating might be enticing for a future visit from the Pope. Methinks the pontiff won't come to Texas. It is too much like hell. And especially for cloistered nuns in Arlington. Don't ask me to do this if you don't want this kind of stuff. Speaking of Texas in August, renowned Western artist Frederick Remington visited our fair city back in 1888 in August. And for Remington, one visit was more than enough. He wrote a letter home to his wife, Eva, in New York, saying, quote, "This is a miserable little frontier town with a little hen coop of a hotel, and I'm nearly starved to death." Remington hated the food, the mosquitoes, and the heat. He said, "If I owned hell and this town, I would live in hell and rent out Fort Worth." Even then, it was the unexpected city. For sports fans, dove hunting season commences on September 1st, although this year you can probably just pick them up off the ground pre-cooked. It may come as a surprise to those of you who know my fondness for firearms, but I am not a hunter. I enjoy fixed target shooting, but if it moves, it will live another day if I'm the one pulling the trigger. My husband, on the other hand, is an excellent shot. I swear he can hit the eye out of a squirrel at 50 yards with iron sights. So why is it he couldn't hit water if he fell in a lake when it comes to peeing in a toilet? Things that make you go, Weather this weekend, it's continued brutality. But here's something to live for. Monday through Thursday next week, the forecast highs are in just the double digits, and the nighttime lows are seductively close to 70 degrees. Don't get comfortable, though. Labor Day weekend will be hotter than a $2 pistol in a 10-day war, and that's the news.
Thank you, JR. Next up, President-elect Rebecca Montgomery for a first and second readings.
Thank you, President Kirk. Good afternoon, everyone. We have two first readings today. The proposed members are Ashley Elgin, CEO of Lena Pope, classification not-for-profit, proposer Vice President Kathy Sheffield. Our second first reading is Russ Lugo, Senior Development Director with Longhorn Council, Boy Scouts of America. Classification, not-for-profit, proposer Wendy Shaw. We also have two second readings today. The following proposed new members were submitted during the August 18th, 2023 program. If no objections are received through the voting process, the proposed members will be accepted into our club. The proposed members are Katie Wawry, Individual Giving Officer with Trinity Habitat for Humanity. Classification, nonprofit. Proposer, past President David Campbell. I move her election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
I have a motion. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Welcome.
Our second reading is Rachel Capia, VP External Operations, Dean of Tarleton State University, Fort Worth. Classification, education. Proposer, Kim McQuisson. I move her election subject to attending a new member Rotary information session.
Second. Got a second? Very well done, Carla. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. She is hereby elected. Welcome. Welcome to you both. Next up, we have two Blue Badge Awards. Deanna Stewart and Kristen Sullivan, come on up. Yeah. Come right up. Here you go, Deanna. I'll take that. Thank you. Kristen, I think we've done this before. Thank you. Thank you both. Anybody else with a red badge out there? You know, get Get your acts of service in so we can get those changed over. They look kind of tacky compared to all this sea of blue. No offense, but blue looks better on you. All right, now to the main program. Chairperson of the day is Charlie Johnson. Charlie, come on up here and introduce our speaker for today, please.
Thank you. It's our pleasure today to hear from our Fort Worth Independent School District Superintendent, Dr. Angelica Ramsey. She came to us a couple of years ago now from Midland Public Schools, where she led with distinction. And Dr. Ramsey, this room is full with folks standing at the back to hear you in part. We don't always have this kind of full attendance. I probably shouldn't tell a guest that. We would love to have you as a member of this club, by the way, but it is full today because this club believes in public schools. And we believe in public education not only as a constitutional provision outlined very, very graphically in our Texas Constitution. Suitable provision, this legislature will make suitable provision for the operation and maintenance of public free schools. Will you say those three words with me? Public free schools. Now, we have leaders in this club who certainly represent our excellent, fine private schools, our excellent, fine home schools, and all other models of education, but our constitutional covenant is for public schools. And so you are our leader in that. And that is a beautiful thing. We do give you a preferential option of support because of the role that you play. You are hired at the behest of our school board, whom we elect, and we are privileged to have one of our fine trustees of our 75,000 students' public education, Trustee Aniel Luibenos. Aniel, stand up. We're grateful to have you today and grateful for your service. And if you've read the newspaper over the past 3 or 4 years, you know that being a public educator and being a trustee of public education hadn't been an easy job, because it seems to be a perfect storm of all kinds of forces of chaos and confusion that are attacking our public schools. I gotta tell you, to attack a classroom public school teacher who works all day long, every day of the week, 70, 80 hours, making $55,000 or $60,000 a year, is a sin. And I guess the Baptist preacher can say that, you bet. So Dr. Ramsey has a challenge. A lot of her children, she's going to tell us about it, over 80% are poor. That means they are in situations that are highly unstable. And yet, she and her colleagues, Dr. Molinar is here. Karen, will you stand up? Assistant Superintendent of Fort Worth Schools, our great guest. Karen's been with this district a long time. And they ingeniously take those kids from every background, every race, every class, every religion, and they put them into a laboratory of democracy. And they do nothing less than create citizens. Dr. Ramsey, we love you, and we are glad you are with us today. Come and share with us. Give a good Rotary welcome to Dr. Angelica Ramsey.
Hello, Rotarians. I didn't know I was going to have to go after a sermon. But I am a bit of a character, so I think I can make it through. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm blessed to be here. I heard a challenge, and the challenge was join this doggone Rotary. And it will be my pleasure because next month will be my 8th year as a Rotarian. So I hold those values really high, And the first 4 years, even though I was serving as a superintendent, I also chaired the four-way test essay contest for the entire region because it's that important to me. I typically talk to our folks about the 4 agreements, and really they're one and the same. We tell folks to make sure that you are impeccable with your word, not to take things personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. They tie in so closely with our 4 agreements that really lead with, let's be good human beings, let's have empathy, and let's make sure that our speech and our actions lead to good outcomes and make the world a better place. And so that's what I come to you with today. This was, I think it's our third, I think this was the third time. The third time was the charm to actually get here. So I'm just proud and blessed to be here. I want to give you a little bit of information. Upon entering, there was a nice little one-pager. We do have a nice gift for you as well. A nice pin. Rotarians like pins. Let's do this. But I'm not going to lie, my staff created this for one reason and one reason only: to keep me on track. Because I can talk to you about schools for hours. I'm actually coming from schools. I walked in and I felt a little underdressed because I spent my morning with pre-K and kindergartners. And they are the best. If you ever feel low, call my office and we'll go see some kindergartners. You'll get 20 hugs that you didn't know you needed. Ladies are gonna tell you you look like a princess today. They're going to ask you 15,000 questions, but they always they start with what you have in common. So just this morning I heard, you have curly hair like me. You have glasses like me. You're a girl like my sister. And it does remind us that everything we needed to know we learned in kindergarten, because they didn't start with what made us different. They started with what makes us the same, because we're more alike than we're different. And I also agree with the Reverend. We are here to serve every child, and every child in this city is important. Whether they attend Fort Worth ISD or not, I am their champion, because I want every child to have opportunities beyond what they can ever dream of having. Do we have challenges? Absolutely. But I want to talk a little bit about how I started the year last year, what has gotten us to this point, and where we headed. But I also want to talk about a collective responsibility to our children and our educators. And I'll give you an example from a story that happened today. I was telling Karen, I said, Karen, we had such a great time. It's really hot, so we can't do outside recess. So our teachers are amazing. They pivot immediately. They're good. They have the kids getting the wiggles out. They're playing. They're dancing. So I danced a lot this morning. Another reason why I apologize to any of you that hugged me today. But we danced and we played, and we had such a great time. And then the reporter who had asked to shadow me today then asked me 3 questions. And my expectation was like, they're gonna ask me about this great time. What are the kids learning? Where are we headed with kids? So we had a rough start of the school year because of the extreme heat, and there were air conditioning units out at schools. So I had, keep the smile, and you're like, 98.5% of our spaces were just fine. And our HVAC crew, even though it's too hot to have recess, they're on roofs right now. They're outside. When something happens, they're on it. And our great assistant principals and principals, they pivot immediately. This room is too hot. Let me find an alternate space. The second question, COVID is on the rise. Are you prepared? Again, we just saw joy. Third question, let's talk about those test scores. I also have to maintain a decorum, because what I was thinking was different than the words I said out loud. I hope my face didn't show it, because I thought, this is exactly it. Our community believes something about our school district that isn't true, because we just spent an hour watching children who do not speak English. Walked into a class, a little girl said to me right off the bat, I sat down with her, and in Spanish, she said, "Yo no hablo inglés, yo solamente hablo español." And I said, that's okay, when I started kindergarten, I didn't speak English either. And just like you, I became fully bilingual. And she looked up and she said, I'm gonna learn English too. Amazing. They asked me about test scores, COVID, and air conditioning. That is why we hear negative when there's so much good. So last year, spent the majority of the year listening. Many of you had opportunities. I chatted with a lot of you, many of you that are in the room. Every employee in the school district had the opportunity to spend an hour with me. I asked 2 questions. What do we do well in the school district, and what do we need to change? Areas of needed improvement. That led to a SWOT analysis. A SWOT analysis is here. Won't read those things to you. But very, very honest conversations about all the great things we do, and a lot of conversations about the challenges that we have. There isn't anyone in the school district that has rose-colored glasses on and just says, we're doing great, leave us alone. It's the opposite. We're doing amazing and miracles every day, but we can't do it and do more if we don't have your help. You know, in our city, we don't have enough opportunities for high-quality early learning. So we have children that come to us for the first time ever, not ready for school. We have schools across our district where in one single classroom, there can be up to 20 different languages. First day of school, we had an amazing dad. We heard the story that a dad who spoke 6 languages volunteered to stay the rest of the day so that he could help translate. Because there are times when parents show up to register their child, and because we can't communicate, we can't figure out what language they speak to get somebody to help with the registration process. Today at Kirkpatrick Middle School, I got to see their food bank and all the preparation that's happening. There was a crew in there working for tomorrow to have hundreds of families come by to pick up basic groceries because they can't get through the week and feed their family if it wasn't for the school district providing the food. We have children that we provide shoes for, clothes for. Families hurting, mental health issues. Did you know that we serve not only children but families that need counseling services? Did you know that we're one of the only school districts in the country that provides free after-school care? That we remove every barrier, including for schools of choice, by providing transportation to children? That 19,000 students last spring were taking an advanced course leading to college credit or an industry-based certification. That our graduation rates for all students continue to climb. That even though we're still seeing the effects of COVID and the learning loss, that children are growing. So we get judged as a school and a district by where students should be, right? Which I get, we love that. Without any thought to where they come in at. And this isn't about blaming children, blaming families. They're doing the best they can, and every family sends their best student to us every single day. But if we move them one academic year, sometimes more than one academic year, they're still not on grade level yet. So we should cheer growth. But we're gonna get compared to school districts like Highland Park. We teach kids life isn't fair, we get it. But I asked a group of students, how does it feel? Oh, actually, because they were like, you know, I see you on the news all the time. They think I'm famous. You're like famous, miss. I see you on news all the time. but literally followed that up with, but why aren't they nice about our schools? Because when people bash the school district, they're bashing that 5-year-old today, that's second week of school, that's going to learn English. Or a teacher who had to sit through an entire board meeting hearing people speak at the lectern calling schools garbage. So our collective responsibility is to push in and to assist. And I know there are a lot of partners in the audience, and I thank you for it. Because if it wasn't for you, we couldn't get through and provide the counseling, the clothes, the food, the supports that our students need so that they can start learning. We have huge groups of students that are just surviving. Parent groups that are assisting. Had a great meeting with the best family last year that came and said, it is my responsibility. I was told when my children were getting school age that I should look at an alternative to Fort Worth ISD. But I believe in the power of public education, and I believe in my role in making the schools a better place. The most successful school is a school where the school community, the adults, lean into it. So we took all of that, all of those comments we had from the external groups, from the internal groups, and we did a lot of things. Of course, the headlines were merely saved $3 million in administrative costs. All of you read that, right? And I got emails, thank you for saving money. But the point wasn't necessarily about cost savings. The point was about listening to our staff and creating a system that's healthier and that's aligned to provide services to our schools. So instead of having 5 different divisions that don't talk to one another as well as they could, because we're a large district, we collapsed all of those so that we're all on the same page. As we move over to Camp Bowie, we're starting next week. We will be a district service center. We have created our district office to be a service center, and our only purpose is to provide support to our schools. I spend at least 2 days out at schools. That entire division of learning and leading spends 3 days out at schools. So there isn't a day in the school week where there aren't folks out seeing what's happening, listening to the voices on the ground, seeing patterns sometimes, and seeing where we can remove barriers and provide support. Test scores, one of my favorite subjects. Because none of us would like to be graded on one day of the year, a 3-hour period. Because we can't all be our best every single day. Imagine that you go to school all year long, but how you do on a test one day determines whether you're a good school or a bad school. I'll also say to you, all of that is subjective. If a community supports a school, the measure of what makes a good school is more than just its test scores. And I have 2 examples for you, concretely. Think about the schools you went to. There were no test scores. Did you think they were a good school or a bad school? Did that make the difference? There were no test scores, therefore every school we went to was bad. No. And this one's gonna get me in trouble. But the alternative to our public schools are some of our charter schools. They severely underperformed our neighborhood schools, but there's still support for them because it's subjective. Because what happens is, if I like the data, I'll use it. If I don't like the data, it just depends on if I like you or I don't. So I ask, room full of really good people, support our school district, not for the adults, not for me, but for our children. Sign up for our newsletter that sends out what we send out every Friday. Every Friday, 4:30 p.m., I send out a newsletter so that you have good news every single week, so that when someone says, did you hear there was a fight at such and such school? You can say there's 140 schools, and I would say if there was one fight at one school, that's a pretty damn safe place to be. Also, did you know they're state champions in this? And that 17 kids did that, and we have students that went to the service academy. And we try, we send out press releases. I get it though. Nobody wants to click on Fort Worth ISD is doing good things. I get it. That's why we need you. So a huge change we made this year is that we implemented a school performance framework. How a school performance framework works is that every school in essence gets a report card. That report card has pieces that are academic, not just how they did one day though. How are they doing on growth? How are they doing on unit tests? How are they doing on what the teacher is seeing? And non-academic. Are there the behaviors at the school? Are they up or down? Are children attending school? And every school then gets stars out of 5. And then we tier them. And we don't tier them to shame and blame. We tier them so that we know what supports to provide. So what's new this year is that every school, based on their individual need and the student populations that they serve, are receiving different and more supports from the school district. Examples of that can be personnel. We're declining enrollment, and we have schools that may needed to have, based on our formula, lost 10 employees. We said, you get to keep 7, depending on the school. We're piloting some performance-based contracts for administrators so that we can get to a place where we're paying teachers more for growth. No one is a miracle worker. If a student comes to you for the first time ever to this school district and they're in 5th grade but reading at a 1st grade level, it is not the expectation that you're at 5th grade level by the end of that school year. But did you grow them at least 1 academic year? Holding each other accountable is what that performance framework does. The board now clearly has a way to hold me accountable. I have a clear way of holding my staff accountable and my staff to our principals and so on. We didn't have that before. And it's in black and white. That allows us to pour in joy, hope, and urgency. That is our theme this year. We're going to bring hope by providing joy and having a sense of urgency. So you can learn a little bit more about that piece. I'm going to continue going. Where are we headed? We don't have a comprehensive strategic plan. Fascinating to me in a school district of our size, that if I go to 140 schools, and I got yelled at last year because I only made it to 97. And even though I explained, I was like, by the time I got here, there were fewer than 140 days. But those I didn't go to were still mad. But if I went to all of them and I asked people in the building, tell me what our goals are. Love children, help children grow, but those are aspirational. So we're going to be doing an inclusive process. We thank the board. Just this Tuesday, they approved that contract so that we can start a comprehensive strategic planning process this fall and into the spring so that we all know the direction we're headed. Using the data from the SWOT analysis as, here are our needs, now what? And there are 2 groups of people that are not a part of that strategic planning process. Now, anyway. The board, because they get to vote and approve later. So you don't get to play twice, right? You don't get to be a part of it and then approve. And me and the cabinet, we're not a part of the process because we're to execute the plan. If we're a part of the process, it's too easy for us, we're humans. Somebody tells you, hey, your entire evaluation is going to be based on this. What do you think we should do? I got great ideas, Anael. So we're not doing that. We're not a part of the process. It will go out to the public for input and comment before it gets refined and then goes to the board. We have an amazing professor out of Harvard, Dr. Kim, who is the preeminent, I call him the ultimate, professor and scholar on systems change in our country. Some people say Peter Senge, right down the road at Boston U. I'm at Dr. Kim Gell. He's doing that work. So it's not here, it's not a process that anyone can touch. And we have finally a place where everyone in the district knows where we're headed, and the community can see and have benchmarks for when we go and report to the board. We're hitting these, we're ahead of schedule on these, we're way off over here, and here are the course corrections that we need to make. Just like a teacher does every single day in her classroom. So I'll repeat, do we have challenges? Yes. Are our children where we would like them to be? No. Can we get there? Absolutely. And we can't have one employee in the district that doesn't believe so. Language, country of origin, all the poverty, none of that has anything to do with attitude, aptitude, or intelligence. So we need to believe that every child can learn. We have 3 groups, student groups, that need the most help in our school district. Our African American students, our emerging bilingual students, and our students with disabilities. Those are the 3 groups that we're pushing in additional supports because they historically are underperforming in our school district. And then we have schools. But our schools have nothing to do with geography. We have A-rated schools across the city, and we have schools that are struggling across the city. But we know that, without being hyperbolic, hurt the children that are going to be the stewards of our economy very soon. So either we give them a bang up education now and we invest everything we have in them now, or we reap that later. My favorite part about being the superintendent isn't just going into classrooms though. My favorite part about being the superintendent is taking the responsibility and shouldering that and getting it away from our teachers. Because all the negative, I want them not to hear any of that. All the accusations, all the political rhetoric. I'll take that on
so that they can do what they do every day, what I saw this morning, loving the children they serve and doing right by them every single day. So with that, do you have like 10 minutes? 10 minutes for Q&A. I did my best. Yes, sir.
When I was in high school, there were not, don't laugh.
For the record, that was not me.
You did not have the opportunity to take college classes when you were in high school.
Yes, sir.
Can you speak on the program for Fort Worth ISD? What that program's doing for our kids when they graduate?
Absolutely. So on our high school campuses, we have early college high schools that provides the opportunity for our students to graduate with their associate's degree before they even get their high school diploma. Last year, we had about 350 students get their associate's degree and ready to transfer to a 4-year before they ever walked across the stage and received their high school diploma. That's amazing. Our students do it in a variety of ways. We're working on programs to get a 4-year, but that alone, an opportunity that our school district provides to our students, starting in middle school, to start getting college credit that you're just not going to get other places. Yes, sir.
Let me preface, 2 out of 3 of my kids go to ISD. My third doesn't keep up. I'm glad that you recognize that. So I've always been very supportive, right? And I love some of the things you're doing. I'd love to know specifics, because you mentioned you're being compared against Highland Park. You're also being compared against Arlington.
Sure.
And right, in Fort Worth ISD's numbers are not great. Okay? What specifically are you doing for the special kids? And to get up with this is their great level. That's where, like, and I agree, right? I think everybody would agree. It doesn't matter if it's with ISD, if it's the city, what always leads is negative, right?
Sure.
So, but I think overall, people want Fort Worth ISD to succeed. So what do you do, right? And then what do you need us to do? Because if Fort Worth ISD succeeds, city of Fort Worth succeeds.
That's right. Now to give you a politician's answer, which I apologize for already, because to go in literal specifics in this large group, I'm going to lose almost all of you. Can we talk afterward so I can talk about with you, are you talking grade level? Are you talking about special ed department? Are you talking about assessment? So can we talk afterward? I will say this. We have new staff in special ed. Our numbers are also actually skyrocketing. Many years ago, many of you that were in education knew that the state had capped special ed numbers throughout our state. It was found unconstitutional. So you have students still in the system that should have always been in special ed and yet never received services. But I would love to talk, is it because we're doing different things, whether it's early, if it's middle grades, and what the programming looks like. So please, 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 I know that's not a good answer for the whole group, but yes, is that okay? Yeah. He's like, I guess, you're not gonna answer. It's just, a lot is the answer. There were 2 over there, yes, battle it out, yes, sir.
I'll go. You have about 80 different languages, primary languages.
About 50.
50. What are you doing to engage parents?
So Fort Worth ISD used some of the federal dollars to provide a community engagement specialist at our campuses. We have 129, I think that's numbers right, of staff at each campus whose sole purpose really is to assist, provide, to liaise with parents on the campuses. In addition to that, we have a lot of partnerships because, yes, we're not going to have staff at one school that has all 50 languages. We have a lot of outside agencies that we also partner with.
We, though, have to do things differently. So in the US, we think that parental engagement means that you are part of the PTA, you do bake sales, and you are at the school site. Culturally, that's not culturally respective to all of our families. Again, almost 87% of our kids in poverty, parents are at work, multiple jobs. So finding ways to engage parents in a non-traditional manner is what those community specialists are doing. In addition, we have a family action center that exists to go into East Side and South Side in particular to push in to engage families. So going to them is really the answer, and starting partnerships that we haven't had in the past. I meet now with a group of pastors. I would love to have a kind of a monthly meeting with a larger group of pastors so that we can get information, get additional volunteers, but there's my plug. Please volunteer, find 2 friends. If you have time or you know someone who has time, especially if they are linguistically diverse, we need any and everything. Reading to students. When you're reading, that teacher can take a small group of students and work with them to help their reading or math skills. Spending time, even if it's something like making copies for a teacher, that time that you gave her or him back, I'd love to say that we give them back to their families, but what really happens is that additional time they just spend doing additional work in the classroom. But it's about engaging in a different way and not expecting parents to just come. And we also have to be respectful. In the Latino households, if you send your child clean and having done their homework and you tell them to behave, they believe they're engaged. It's disrespectful to ask questions or to question the school. So we need to know, what does that look like for the populations at each of our schools, provide training to our staff, and find different ways of engaging them.
You mentioned 140 schools. Tell us 2 or 3 that are making dramatic improvements since you've been there. Something positive.
There's so much positive. So this last year, for context, the test changed, the state test. In the past, it was just a multiple choice. Now there are over a dozen different types of items. So you may be asked to select, is number 1 true, 1 and 3, 1 and 4. You might have to compare, you might have to match. There's also embedded writing now for students, and this past year was the first year where children had to all take it online. So you have an 8-year-old trying to figure out, the computer and all of that. Every single campus took on that challenge. I saw teachers writing across, it's not even a couple of schools, and I wish I could highlight some, but then I'll leave somebody out. But from the fine arts to a science class, they were doing writing. In our schools that have a lot of English learners, I saw that they were engaging students so that they made sure that they were listening, speaking, reading, and writing in English, getting practice every single day. One thing that I did see is our teachers collaborating with one another. So I get to see patterns. So today at the middle and high schools, I saw fine arts classrooms. At the elementary schools I visited, I just went to pre-K and K. I get to see patterns. Are they pacing the same? And I can tell you that wherever I've been, and I've been all across the city already in the 2 weeks, there isn't a school that I wouldn't send my own child to in Fort Worth ISD. And I don't know if that's always been the case. That's a huge positive. And I know you're staring at me. They're telling me time. One more? One more. Yes, sir.
Has the book censoring movement found its way to Fort Worth? And what is the best way to address?
If anyone would like some free entertainment, we would ask that you don't have to come to the board meetings, but you can watch them. They're on YouTube. Yes, it has come. There is a process. Any parent in our school district who has a concern about a particular book can challenge, and there is a committee that reviews the book for appropriateness. We want to make sure that every family makes that choice for themselves. What we will not allow is people that are not the parent or guardian of a child to make that decision for all. Thank you all. Sorry, I'm short.
Well, you're good.
Thank you very much for coming as our program today, Doctor.
Rotary is committed to fighting polio.
Yep.
In honor of you speaking today, we have a gift, a memento for your speaking engagement, not for polio, okay?
Fair enough.
All right, thank you very much. Again, we'd like to thank our sponsors. Bank of Texas is so much more than a bank. It's a financial services partner for consumers, businesses, and wealth clients alike. While its origin may have been modest, it has grown alongside its clients for more than a century. Its people have unwavering confidence in their ability to build strong relationships, provide diverse expertise and services, and invest in the communities they serve. We'd also like to thank Pastors for Texas Children. Pastors and faith leaders of all denominations are joining Pastors for Texas Children to support the quality education of all Texas children. PTC's purpose is to spark a strong grassroots movement committed to standing up for our children, family, and Texas communities. Now we have a couple closing messages. Number one, Board of Directors meeting, President's Conference Room, 11th floor. Next week, no meeting. It is Labor Day weekend. With that, we are adjourned.